The Square Ball Podcast.
Well, hello there. Back end of the week and a little Square Ball update for you that you'll find in your podcast app and on YouTube. It's brought to you with Levi Solicitors, who will offer you 10% a discount on your legal fees on their full range of services, which include wills, probate, conveyancing, lasting powers of attorney, care home fees, the hot button topic that everyone's on about at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. You don't want to start wading through that yourself. If you've got money here, you've got money there. Ask Levi's. They'll sort it all out for you with a discount as well.
Full details, terms on the website at levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Dan, Dean and Chris Mack, as we chat about things heading into the weekend and a fixture against Spurs coming up at the weekend. One thing we do know finally now is that Dan James is injured, and it is weeks, not months. There were horrible rumours swirling around that it was his ACL that had been done, and as is the way with the internet these days, it took on a life of its own, that rumour. Suddenly everyone's believing it. It turns out, thanks to Craig Bellamy, new official club spokesperson. Congratulations in your new role, Craig. It's an ankle injury by the looks of it, and hopefully it's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it on Tuesday. You don't want these things to drag on and on and on and on, because we need some options up there, I think, that don't look like Brendan Aronson. And yeah, if ACL sounded scary, Craig Bellamy says he has an ankle issue, which is currently undergoing assessment. So that sounds a lot better.
Yeah, I have enjoyed the reaction to this. People going, "We'll see, we shouldn't have loaned out Ramazani." Wouldn't have mattered.
No,
wouldn't have mattered. He'd have played Jack Harrison on the left wing or right wing if he really needed to. Anyway.
Yeah,
we don't need to retread the ground that we covered earlier in the week, but it does draw a bit of attention too, as you were saying there, Chris, like the front line and where the goals are going to come from. And I know Leeds have kind of answered a few of those doubts in recent weeks by scoring 5 goals in the last couple of games, which is encouraging. I know a lot of people would have identified Dan James as a really strong counter-attacking option, but truthfully, he's not really featured that much so far this season. Possibly a little bit of a hangover from the injury towards the back end of last season, which has potentially disrupted his fitness program over the summer.
Yeah, he's not really got going in those first few games, which isn't an issue, because that raw pace at some point will come into play this season, and it would be nice to have that option from the bench. But at the minute, Aronson played well. As far as the front line and the setup is at the minute. Do you change it going into Saturday? Probably not, even if he is available.
Well, it seems to be the case, Chris, that Farke, I don't know if this has happened by default because of the injuries, because Nonto is obviously out at the minute as well. Do we know how close he is one question. The other one is the attacking setup. It's like it's almost one direct runner in the form of Okafor on the left, and then somebody who kind of does the donkey work like Aronson does on the right, chasing, closing down, and he's less advanced. He does get forward, doesn't he? But he's not a direct speed merchant.
You'd say Dan James does both of those things though as well. I think Nanto's supposed to be back in training this week, but we'll probably find that out later on when Farke speaks. The thing with James as well is they threw him back in to start those games at the start of the season, and he didn't look fit. So it almost would have been better if we weren't totally reliant on him to create things down the right wing and let him get back to fitness by coming off the bench in games like that. But he hasn't looked right physically the whole time since. It was the 8th of April when he went down against Borough and obviously didn't play for the rest of the season. And you don't know how long into the summer that went on. In terms of the wingers at the minute, it's all about balance, isn't it? So you've got Okafor on one side doing his thing, and then Aronson on the other. Even with the fullbacks, Bogle and Goodmanson. Bogle feels slightly more attack-oriented than Goodmanson maybe does, although Goodmanson obviously does get forward.
Yeah, it feels like, as I said this earlier in the week, like the fullbacks are choosing their moments when to go forward rather than it just being all out. But then again, we have seen a slight adjustment to the attacking style as well. And the big revelation moment for me, the big light bulb moment for me there was that cross to Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Wolves, where as we said at the time, it's a goal we don't score last season. We're obviously going from side to side, working it, passing it, probing, trying to get in behind the defence, and it's a lot of stuff on the floor. And in that case, it was just an absolutely brilliant, meaty cross and an outstanding header from Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And you forget, actually, there's almost been quite a sea change in the way that we play. And it's not to accommodate Dominic Calvert-Lewin, quite the opposite. It feels like there is a plan being put in place with Operation Big Bastards, and he's very much kind of the apex of that.
And I thought that was in great evidence on Saturday against Bournemouth, especially when we started to go long. Calvert-Lewin was brilliant. I can't really remember a header that he didn't win, even if the second ball didn't fall to one of our lads. He was putting himself about. He was winning.
The man bouncing off him as well. Yeah,
it was brilliant to see. You know, we've been for the last 2 years. We've been so used to just keeping the ball at the back, moving into midfield, finding those spaces. This sort of play we haven't seen for. I can't really remember the last time we saw it, really. Maybe a little bit with Bamford in various games and seasons, but how effective Calvert-Lewin was, regardless he didn't put the ball in the back of the net, Saturday against Bournemouth, is really encouraging going forward, because we're going to need to find different ways to play. In my head, I'm thinking further down into the season, if that ball can go up to Calvert-Lewin and either stick or he can flick it on to someone like a really speedy Daniel James, that's going to be exciting. When we find that different way to play as well.
Yeah, is it a case of almost as we go refining the method a little bit? Yeah. So maybe if it is a bit basic right now, it gets better and we build on it in subsequent weeks, months, and then seasons.
Yeah, the power has changed this year, whereas last year we basically camped out on the edge of teams' boxes, but we didn't have that option of just stick it in the box and see what happens. Well, a lot of times we did. It was really low and hard along the ground, and that's where our chances came from. But this year, I mean, I wrote on the blog last week about just get the ball in the box, because it take any team can sit and defend and crab along the edge of their own box with 2 banks of 5 if they have to, but it becomes a 50-50 pretty quickly if you just start putting balls in the box.
Yeah, it was pretty prescient, was that, actually, ahead of the Bournemouth game, when you looked at where our goals came from, and also Bournemouth as well, and where their threat came from. We saw the equaliser in injury time. Just goes to show, you know, teams don't like it. Upham is about the size of it. You know, to put it in really basic old school terms.
Yeah, defenders don't like defending anymore. I'm convinced that if you run at a defender, no matter how good they are, they don't really like having to do one-on-one defending, especially when they know they're going to be slower than the attacker for the most part.
Yeah, it has the role of the number 9 changed, do you think? Particularly in light of how physical the Premier League is, and I think that's one of the things that catches teams out who come up, and that's why I'm mindful that we're very early in the season. There's a lot of distance left to run. That the Operation Big Bastards FC approach is, whether it works or not remains to be seen, but it's certainly a considered method, and we are recruiting with pace and power in mind, trying to be able to physically compete, I think.
Yeah, and also, does it feel to you guys as if the style of football in the Premier League has changed a little bit?
It feels more basic. It's more basic. It feels more basic.
Yeah. You've got pretty much every team has a long throw now. You've seen, even from kickoff, who was it? Was it Newcastle who just twatted it down into the corner and right, we'll get everyone around that?
There's a few teams doing that now.
Yeah, it just feels like the football is adapted slightly.
It reminds me of when we went back over on the members feed and we analysed the 4-3, the Viduka game, to see how basic the football was then. Like, it would, you know, like, for example, Nigel Martin in goal would kick it out. There was no passing it around the back four. But if the ball did go out to the fullbacks, or it came down towards the fullbacks, like Gary Kelly, Ian Hart, whoever it was, it just went back up the field. And it feels like we've moved a little bit more towards that era, because teams have realised that if you can't compete with like Pep Guardiola's tiki-taka style, then what can you do? Well, you can compete physically, which is very much what we're doing this season.
But you say Guardiola, and I think Guardiola acknowledged last year that his style of football was dying out, and he actually picked out Bournemouth's manager Iraola as like how to play modern football correctly. But he's done the one thing that people never thought he would do, is he signed a big freak up front. He signed the biggest goalkeeper, shot-stopping goalkeeper, never mind Ederson playing it out from the back. And they're going a little bit more direct this year. Football, I think, for the last 2 years has been going that way, because the whole 1,000 passes and passing teams to death, it just doesn't work. You look at teams like Swansea and some of the teams that came to Elland Road, or Leeds played in the Championship, that were insistent on playing it out from the back.
It was comical, wasn't it?
They're just shite. They can't do it.
Yeah.
But the thing is now, what you were saying about how in the early 2000s teams were just lumping it. The thing is now, defenders for the most part can still play it about the back if they have to, or if they want to, but they can also go long. So I feel like we've almost got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
In approaches now.
Well, with one eye on Spurs, it's what Thomas Frank's Brentford did when they came up as well, which was to physically compete and sign players who were capable of doing that. And then you start to add the slightly more finessed players to the squad as you stay up. And it's obviously never linear, as we've seen since Frank has left there. They're now moving into the Keith Andrews era, which is probably, if we're being kind about it, is less predictable about what the outcome is going to be. So it all makes sense, doesn't it? Issue 2 of our mag, by the way, is going to be out for the game against Spurs. It's the one that came out last week against Bournemouth. Have you got it to hand? Is it somewhere on the table?
Right here.
There it is.
Look at that cover.
That's great.
By Shannon Marriott. I would probably wear that on a t-shirt. Hint, hint. Audie, Michael. Hint, hint. Wink, wink.
Yeah, well, speaking of t-shirts, actually, we've got one on order now, haven't we? For there's the Yeboah article in there. Everyone remembers the Yeboah Liverpool goal from 30 years ago, but the goal, in many ways, I think did it usurp it in some ways, was the one at Selhurst Park against Wimbledon, the absolute thunder bastard. That's been commemorated in an article, and we're doing a t-shirt as well. Graphics for which I think you can probably see on screen on the video version, and is available for pre-order on our website now. Yeah, that was a good goal. It just sort of makes me think about, has the role of centre forward changed actually with what Dominic Calvert-Lewin is doing now and the more physical aspects of that compared to Tony Yeboah? Because as that goal proved, and the Liverpool goal, and well, a number of his goals actually were stick it in for him to run onto, and he'll just go beat a man and do a great trick by lifting it over Peter Schmeichel or thunder bastard it into the net. There was a lot of sort of self-created stuff from deep with Yeboah, whereas Calvert-Lewin obviously is not that sort of player. He's more of like I want to say target man, but that sounds too basic.
Yeah, I think Yeboah had Brian Dean to do all that sort of work for him, did he not? And then I'm just looking at this t-shirt, smiling just because of the body shape that Yeboah has when he scores that goal at Selhurst Park. I talked about the Bournemouth goal that they scored in the last minute of the weekend, and that body shape from that their player to kind of sweep it in. And if that body shape was a 6 out of 10, this is a 14 out of 10.
Yeah,
Yeboah, unbelievable.
It's like the NBA as MLB logos as well, where they have the silhouette.
Yeah.
I feel like if you had that as a silhouette, you would go Yeboah.
Yeah,
yeah.
But to answer your question, both the 2 goals that we think of with Yeboah, which is the Liverpool and the Wimbledon goals, both come from a header down to Yeboah from a ball floated up the pitch towards a big lad. So, I mean, the striker role has definitely changed because you had...
Was it not Rod Wallace who headed it down to for one of them, for the Liverpool goal?
I might have been.
Am I misremembering that? Yeah.
I suppose not a big lad then.
Yeah. Someone's head anyway.
I think it's Brian Dean for the Wimbledon one anyway.
Yeah.
I've got Dino in my head somewhere.
But I was 6 months old. I'll have to take your word for it. But like the striker role changes where you have it's like big man, little man at that point, and then come into the 2000s, and some teams are playing with one striker, some are playing 4-4-2, and it's more about goal scorers. And then the Guardiola era comes, and it's false nines, and it's pressing forwards like Bielsa had with Bamford and Llorente at Athletic Bilbao, or Athletic Club as you're supposed to call them. And nowadays it feels like we're going back to the not old school, but it's kind of like how kids wear 2000s clothes nowadays. It's the 2000 striker, but bigger and better almost.
Yeah, almost like the reboot version 2.0 of the all-rounder.
It's like they brought back total 90s, so why not bring back big strikers?
No, it's a good shout. I mean, Tony Yeboah was in his own way a big striker. He had heft, and that Wimbledon goal, as you're saying, like the body shape, just all of it just makes me smile. The way that he gets that ball, and there's no other way to describe it, but he bulldozes his way through people.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Like it's like one of those trains with when with the snowplow thing on the front, just going through the snow. Move, get out of my way.
I'm just watching it now. The body shape he ends up with is iconic and beautiful and so shapely and gorgeous. But the touch that he has before that with his left foot to take it around the defender, there's no way on earth that if he tried that again, I don't care who he is, Tony Yeboah, I don't care who he is, he's not going to achieve it, because it comes off his left, hits his knee, sets itself up so perfectly, smash.
If you know that touch that hits his knee, I think it's almost on his thigh, and it looks like he's got Velcro on his thigh just for a second.
Yeah,
like the ball just welds to him.
Yeah, it's a brilliant goal. And for them to come in such quick succession, between the Liverpool and the Wimbledon
Did
goal.
that win
Unbelievable.
goal of the season over the Liverpool strike? I think it might have done, mightn't it?
I'm not too sure. Was that not the same year that Beckham scored
On the halfway line.
Yeah, against
but
Wimbledon.
we don't count that.
But did it not win? I definitely know it was goal of the month for September, but it was also there was just over a month, sorry, between the two as well. The touch that Yeboah has, it's almost like when you see footballers do that like street thing nowadays, where they basically like flick the ball off the ground and it bounces up. It's the same in hurling, the Irish sport. Like you see them flick it off the ground and they just take that little touch and it just sits up perfectly for you to just absolutely smash it. The thing is that I find fascinating about this, because I wrote this article in the mag, but we did the Yeboah special at the start of the year, and everyone thinks of these two goals when they think of Yeboah, so they associate him with just absolutely twatting it past the goalkeeper. But he scores 27 goals in the calendar year of 1995. And nearly all of them are really deft finishes or tap-ins, or where he's had to show sort of classic striker nous more than just being able to smash one in from 25, 30 yards.
I will say this, as a man of a particular vintage who lived through this era, I think about Tony Yeboah maybe once a week, once a fortnight, something like that. Like genuinely, like get wistful about it. I think he's the best striker I've seen in my lifetime at Ellen Road. Out of all of them,
I think I
the
probably
best by a mile.
I have the same thing about Viduka. Yeah, it's those strikers who you grew up watching, and especially like when you're really young. When Viduka was around, I was 10ish. He just seems so big and imposing, and I know he got a lot of stick for not running around, but you just remember him in your head. I never saw Yeboah play for Leeds in the flesh. I started going to Ellen Road just after he'd left. But anytime this highlights package gets served up on the algorithm, I watch all of it and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm just watching it again now. Yeah, and it's a bit of a loose, sloppy play, and the ball almost drops to him out of the air. Yeah, and he just it's almost getting into kick-ups territory just to get it down under control. But it's not like he takes a touch and then another touch and then another touch. All the touches flow into each other.
It was goal of the season as well. I've just checked it.
Yeah, and rightly so.
Yeah,
and then to break the net, I mean, I think there's people in the Palace end, or the Wimbledon end rather, who are just like, what can you do? You know, now and again you see a goal and you go, well, what can you do about that?
You see the keeper, Paul Held, and he's just like, what?
What do you want me to do?
That?
Yeah, he's on his knees with the ball like tucked under his arm. I'm just looking at it now. It's like, he looks like he's got PTSD. What have I just experienced?
Because there's a little bit of a warning for that Yeboah can do this. When he scores a goal against West Ham on the opening day, and it's a volley where it comes over his head, over his shoulder.
I was going to say, for anybody who's ever played football at any level, it's so hard to do that, to take it out of the air when it's coming over your shoulder.
And the way he hits it, you just see the keeper for West Ham.
McCloskey.
Yes, and he just looks up and he's like, "What was that?" like when will you have ever seen something like that happen before?
Yeah,
he's just completely baffled by it. The funniest thing about the goal against Wimbledon, is the goal that Carlton Palmer scores, the Leeds' first goal in this game.
It's outstanding, isn't it?
It's an absolute screamer, and but it's a very Carlton Palmer screamer. He looks so uncomfortable on the ball. He takes like 4 touches across the box, sets his body up, and just curls it into the far corner. It's brilliant.
Yeah, there's something inherently funny about Carlton Palmer as well. It's in the all-white kit that we ended up playing in the League Cup final in, which was an absolutely stunning kit, which I wrote about that at the start of last season, I think it was, in the mag. Just how I loved it. And it was nearly perfect, but the bit of it that wasn't perfect was the collar. It was like wearing like a sweater or a turtleneck or something like that. And because Carlton Palmer had a lot of neck, it almost seemed to accentuate that part of him. So he looked even more ungainly in what was quite a refined kit.
Yeah, he looked like he'd been strangled.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in The Simpsons. But I understand what you mean about like the Yeboah mania, because nobody really knows that much about him when he signs in the January of that year. And by the end of the year, he scored 27 goals. But he also, in that sort of 6-week period between the start of the season and this goal, he scores 2 goals in the opening day. He scores the goal against Liverpool. He scores the hat-trick against Monaco. Then he scores a hat-trick in this game.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Genuinely, having lived through it, it was like unbelievable. You just expected something miraculous to happen every week, and it often did. even like the goals against like Sheffield Wednesday and Man United. This is just unbelievable stuff, and it just felt like it was never going to end. And of course, these things do. But I still carry a huge disproportionate fondness for Tony Yeboah that stems from that period. When you look at his appearances, the number of appearances he made, and the amount of time he was at Ellen Road compared to many other players, it's barely a scratch on our overall record. But he is like my number one striker. I think Viduka is probably just slightly behind, and then probably Hasselbank is somewhere up there as well. But unbelievable footballer.
I think that's probably accelerated as well in the minds of Leeds fans, because yes, that goal won goal of the season, but when you watch all of those goals from that season, it feels like he was having his own goal of the season competition internally with himself. It's just ridiculous how that Liverpool goal doesn't win goal of the season is remarkable, and the fact that it's beaten by the same player doing something slightly different is just wonderful.
I mean, we talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin's role within the side, and maybe that because we picked him up on a free, we've actually maybe got ourselves potentially a bit of a bargain. Fingers and toes crossed and all that. What's Yeboah in today's market?
Ooh. That's silly, but you don't get someone like that anymore. No one just. The thing is, Yeboah was playing in the UEFA Cup that year for Frankfurt and was a bit of an icon in Germany. There's a mural on the side of a wall outside the stadium, but you don't get anyone who's that.
Genuinely, I think the closest footballer to Yeboah is Haaland. I really do think so. Like in terms of his style, the pace and power, and the fact that when he's running through with the ball, it's going in.
But Haaland doesn't score these goals.
No.
Haaland is a goal machine, as we all know, but Haaland doesn't...
He's more of a flat track bully, isn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't routinely score these absolute screamers.
No.
He's more... He does have the sort of acrobatics, though.
Yeah.
That he can score some goals. You're like, I have no idea how he scored that or how that even happened, but Yeboah didn't have the Man City team playing with him. He had John Pemberton in midfield. That's slightly different.
And he's just a gigantic athlete, isn't he? He's like just a huge Viking of a man, is Haaland. Whereas Yeboah, obviously, he had the power and the build, but wasn't as sheer. It wasn't just sheer athleticism like it is with Haaland. But it's the closest analogue I can think of somebody who was just, on their day, completely unstoppable.
That year, 1995, he probably is one of, if not the best strikers in the world. George Weah wins the Ballon d'Or that year, and he's the first African to win the Ballon d'Or. And you've got him, you've got Batistuta probably becoming a bit of a thing around that time. Beyond that, I don't know.
Darren Anderton,
Robbie Fowler. It's not really a packed field.
No.
So, it's kind of funny how he doesn't do very much in 1996, and obviously has the fallout and all that, but his Leeds goal scoring sort of begins with scoring against Man United in the FA Cup, and then ends on Christmas Eve that year scoring that goal against Man United in the league at Elland Road.
What I will say is there are only a handful of players where I look back and think it was a genuine privilege to see you playing for Leeds United. Rafinha's one, Yeboah is another, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I've just checked. The knockdown for the Liverpool goal was Rod Wallace. So I'm going to put this into the ether. Brendan Aronson's going to knock the ball down.
Header.
Little header. Little header. And Calvert-Lewin is going to emerge 30 yards out and twat it into the top corner via the crossbar against Spurs this weekend.
I feel like Sean Longstaff has that in him after the weekend.
Yeah. Well, he tried against Fulham as well, didn't he, and hit the top of the bar. So he's on for it.
Right then, issue 2 of the mag. Just hold it up for us one more time if you could, Chris. Lovely bucket hat cover there. That would look good on a t-shirt. Let's make that happen. Is available around Elland Road against Spurs. The Yeboah article is in there celebrating the goal against Wimbledon and just a general love-in for Tony Yeboah as well. And the t-shirt that goes with that, which celebrates that very same goal, is available at thesquareball.net, as is the mag as well. And I'm sure there's plenty of good stuff for you to read, listen to and watch on there as well. We'll see you in a bit. We'll be back with a match ball after the game, and we're going to be speaking to Tony Dorigo, previewing Spurs properly once we've heard from Daniel Farke in his press conference a little bit later on today. See you in a bit.
The Square Ball Podcast.